Hi, welcome to session 2 of Coyote and Crow Bleeding in the Black. This is technically our first session of play. The last session was a session 0 where we created our characters. I'm Chris Ruger, pronouns he, him, and we will get started with play right away. So want to give the players a sense of the backdrop. And before I do that, I will mention this is part of the Gauntlet series. If you're interested in finding out more about the Gauntlet community and the fun role-playing games we play, you can find us at gauntlet-rpg.com. As such, we use the Gauntlet code of conduct, and we describe the safety tools we're using in the prior session. I'm going to pull up a map of Makasing and share it just as a reminder. And what we're looking at here is what we know as the North American map flipped with the south pointed up. And our characters are starting in Cahokia, but we're quickly going to move south to what we would know as Houston, Texas, but which I've created a fake city for called Auya. I've done it with care and consultation out of sensitivity by checking in with the folks on the Coyote and Crow Discord server as to the best way to come up with city names and stuff like that. And the recommendation was to use the same type of Chahi name generator that you can use to generate character names, or use the Chahi glossary and transliterate if you need to, that they have at the end of the book, or to find native names that are used in real life for locations. And I believe that I took the name for Galveston, Texas, even though this is technically not Galveston, it is very close to it. So I figured I would use that and make the assumption that that city combined Houston and Galveston all together. And we will take a look at that city in a second. So the crew is going to take a Yutsu ride south. With that, let me describe a little bit more. So there's a looming war with the Ezcan Empire because skirmishes have been breaking out. The Ezcan Empire is in what we know as Mexico, as you can see on the map, and it is the most aggressively expansionist country in the known world at the time. The way that they've been taking over towns is by introducing new tech, offering prosperity, and winning the hearts of the conquered. After the Awis, when Adenati was discovered, the Ezcans took advantage of the fact that there were some people in their community who were given intellectual advantages as a result of the Adenati. And they took those thinkers and immediately put them onto the technology development track. So a side effect of this was as certain people grew up with Adenati, they had increased perception, wisdom, intellect, and scientific progress across both continents because everybody started doing this, skyrocketed. So medicine, agriculture, and engineering were already progressing rapidly, but the Adenati became such a profound change that it put huge cultural pressure on people and governments. So there is a race for technology, and the Ezcans may have gotten to the starting line first. That's the backdrop. So the backdrop is also there have been other skirmishes, details of which I'm going to spare us for now, but other skirmishes along the border in the Dine Republic, possibly in the Freelands. And it's never been big enough to blow anything into a war, but about 150 years ago, there was the All Tribes War, where the five tribes, the five nations in the Freelands fought against the Ezcan Empire and successfully kept them at bay. But it's been a couple hundred years since treaties were signed, and some of those treaties are starting to look old, and some of the nations are starting to press each other in terms of capabilities and wanting competitive advantages by trading with the Ezcan Empire. And things are not as clear as they were when peace was first settled across all five nations. So the reason you're going south, and I'm hard framing you over this just a little bit because I got to do something to frame it. I hope you're okay with this. Is built off of the story that came up in your backstory. So Ahote has been searching for a plant mutation, and he had a vision that it was back where he'd seen it before in the city of Awia. He asked Shaka for help, who has traveled with him before, and he also had a vision that Dezba was going to protect him. And he saw that there were people taking this plant and using it in laboratories who looked sick. And he was concerned that perhaps this was happening, and he wanted to get more of it. So that was why I'm placing you on this barge. Are you all okay with that? Hard framing it a little bit. Okay.
Is this a barge on a river? Is this a floating barge?
Oh, yeah. So I was about to say, so you're getting on a Yutsu barge, and the Yutsu technology takes an electromagnetic field and puts it on Adenati tissue that allows the barge to hover. So the Adenati tissue is suspended in a vacuumed ring, and it emits negative gravitons. It's attached to the bottom of the vehicle, and it maintains a constant elevation off of the ground, hovering. They can add engines to it to be able to lift the vessels higher enough to clear treetops, but it's a big hovercraft using Adenati tissue. You all would be familiar with Yutsu technology. Yutsu is, at this point, the commonly used phrase to describe most technology of this kind. Their mag slings and mag bows use Yutsu technology. So they're all basically taking the Adenati tissue from somewhere and taking advantage of the extra magnetic powers. There are, in Cahokia proper, the way you usually get around is by using public transportation that uses Yutsu barges. Other than that, you can walk. Most people don't use their own personal vehicles. Public transportation and walking is the primary way to do it. I'm going to show a picture of one of these. I think I have a picture of one of these Yutsu barges. Put up from the book. And they're brightly colored. As I'm finding it, they're multi-level. They have fire pits in them. So your travel is going to take you a couple of days. You'd sleep in hammocks. There is a driver, and it would take you, like I was saying, it would take you the whole way from Cahokia to Awia. Oh, there's a picture in here somewhere.
In the book, look at page 112.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's perfect. That's exactly the one. So let's just share that. And this, oops, this share screen. Share. This is pretty typical of the type of design aesthetic that is used. Technology is not meant to look sleek or like, the kind of modern industrial design that we see. It's meant to have personality, expressiveness, and bright colors. And in many cases, including here, there would be solar panels covering the ship. They have a technology that lets you paint solar panels effectively onto a surface to look like reptilian scales. So there'd be that extra lift as well. So where were we? Oh yeah. Yeah, the Jutsu technology is also used for modern plumbing as well. So this is going to give you plenty of time to think and look at the outside world. You notice as you get on, you remember as you get on, or maybe you knew this beforehand, is that people don't carry weapons around frequently in the freelands, at least not openly. It's not to say you can't. A lot of times the reason they don't do that is because they can't afford it. So do you carry them around? Do you carry them around openly? Do you have them on this trip? I'm just going to start with in character keeper order with Ahote. Is Ahote carrying a weapon? And it's fine if you are.
Yeah, I think he's had enough bad luck that he
Yeah.
carries it for defense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about and do you have it in your bag or do you have it on your person at all times?
If we're on the barge, he'll just keep it in his bag.
Okay. What about Dezba?
Yes, without a doubt. Certainly. She has her war club with her at all times. She's got a little sling type thing, so it's just slung over his shoulder. But also, I think she brought. Sorry, I am trying to find the sport she's good at, and I
Oh, right.
find it. But anyway, she has the stick for that. Toraton. She has the stick used for that as well, which is
Awesome.
back in her room. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm sorry, did you say that the war club is on her?
At all times
Okay,
until
she's carrying
someone
it at all
tells her
times.
otherwise. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And what about Shaka?
Shaka feels safe enough on the ship that brought weapons. Of course, you never know what you're going to find whenever you're out in the wild. But has them kind of packed away, and I think is spending most of his time on deck, looking at the land that we're passing through and kind of taking notes and trying to remember it.
Awesome. Yeah. As you take off from Cahokia, well, you know what? Before you leave, I mean, you have a moment, you have time. You didn't just have to catch a YouTube barge right away, spur of the moment. Going back around, starting with Ahote, is there anybody that you are going to want to talk to before you leave? You know that you're going to be gone for at least a few days. Are there any matters you need to resolve? Or just anybody that you feel like talking to?
No, I think I'd prefer that one day I'm not there. And then, maybe one day I'll be back.
That sounds
So,
right for Ahote. Okay. What about Dezba?
I don't know if we need it on screen, but she would make sure as soon as she knew she was going to give Paya Starhair a heads up that she's going. And
Got it.
maybe she's looking over some lyrics for something that Paya's recently written. So, yeah.
Paya Starhair is a musician.
She is.
Does she perform at, one of the clubs? Does she perform at the whatever club Dezba is currently?
In fact, one of my short-term goals is to help Paya play a gig at the Nukarubi, which hasn't happened yet.
Got it. Okay. See that. All right. Perhaps Paya is a little bit like, why are you going all the way out there?
Oh. Well, Ahote, Shaka need me. They would get killed.
There you go. Protecting, always protecting. Yeah, bring me back something from Eskin territory if you can.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Des.
Of course.
What about Shaka.
Shaka tells everybody he can. Like he's super excited about this whole trip, just blabbering on about it, and goes looking for, have you ever been there? What can I expect? Just kind of looking for information, but at the same time just is just excited and can't stand it. Yeah.
And does Shaka have family in Cahokia? Is Shaka from Cahokia? I've forgotten.
I think Shaka's from Cahokia, yeah.
Okay. So Shaka's lack of the ability to understand, Dezba and Dezba's connection to their siblings, was that lack of ability because Shaka just doesn't really have the same amount of family? Is that a personality quirk?
I think it's more along the lines of Shaka realizes it's more like when you grow up you expand out and you leave your family, and that's the natural way of things. And the closeness with that Debsa sees with their family seems almost like what's the right word? Like they aren't experiencing everything they could.
Got it. All right. So who I see you've got Anecdote, an information source. Is that how you pronounce your NPC there?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe.
Mhm.
Is Anecdote also a friend who you'd be asking these questions to? About have you been there and
Probably.
all of that?
Or what have you heard? What kind of information would you have? Not just Anticote, but just about anybody. But I think Anticote would probably be the best source. Um, and I think once Shaka calms down a little bit, is like, oh, I probably need to go talk to the person who might know more, not just the
Yeah.
random people in the coffee shop, right?
Yeah. Well, Anecdote, when you ask Anecdote, Anecdote says, yeah, that place is interesting. It used to just be ours, but the Eskins are making inroads. It is a little bit more run down than it used to be. Please watch yourself while you're there.
What do you know about the Azcan people? I mean, do they speak our language?
Well, they speak our language just the same way as all of the Five Nations speak our language, meaning the trade language of Chahi. Everybody's got their own languages, as you know. But out of practicality, in order to trade, even though we're not supposed to trade with them, they still have there's still skimmers going across from Kitagawi Federation, passing right by our shores, just blatantly trading with the Eskins, and they've got to be able to talk somehow. Same thing. I'm concerned that they're gonna, based on their history, that they are going to try to find a way to secretly take over towns one at a time by offering carrots instead of sticks. It's kind of hard to police when you have that porous a border. So yes, they would understand Chai.
Nice. Okay. Maybe I'll get a chance to meet one. That would be great.
Oh, I'm sure you could walk right over the border and meet them. Oh, just remember, when you leave our nation, your Daso won't work anymore, the equivalent of the internet. So you need to have an actual Nisi that will read their Daso. I mean, it's the same, this, it's the same even if you went to Haudenosaunee or Dine Republic, any of the Five Nations, that we're friendly with, everybody's very protective of their Daso. Again, that's the internet. So as soon as you step over that border, watch out. You can still use your Nisi to talk to your friends, like a walkie-talkie type of situation, but you couldn't get the freelance news updates that you're used to.
So help me a little bit with the culture. Is this something that it would be easy to get access to a Nisi from another land, or is this something like you said that they protect quite a bit?
Very difficult to get.
Okay.
Just out of character, right? the sort of thing that you'd probably have to take from somebody by force. Nobody's going to give it to you.
Yeah, it's not like I could go down to the corner shop and, pick up a map equivalent. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, you're on the barge, and you notice that there's only one other person on the barge with you. And then there's the driver. You fly over Cahokia. You see waste treatment plants that you all know very well. They're tiny fabricated islands that have enclosed structures, but because everybody's so proud of this, that inside those structures have little beetles and grubs that eat all the waste and very efficiently process them. And there's a deep moat so that fish can live in it to then eat the beetles. So as you fly over that quickly flashes through your mind. You see the nightclubs, the markets, and the gardens. You pass over the historic part of the city and the government, and you end up now in with the tall grass farmlands, and you see robots harvesting maize. And you know that there are animals out grazing and being hunted, not being captured. As you take a look at all of this, you look over and perhaps she has introduced herself. I'm going to start with Rod this time. Start with Ahote. What does Ahote notice about the older lady who's the only other passenger on the ship? Her name is Chippewanap. What was she doing in Cahokia? What is she bringing back?
She's carrying a large box, but it's wrapped. It's going to be a present. Yeah, I have no idea what's in it. But she seems to, hold it close to herself as if it had itself some value.
Awesome. Dezba, what does Dezba think of the barge driver whose name is Ganagatat?
He's pretty lax about security. Doesn't even check people. I don't know. I just hope this is a really safe route. He's half asleep already.
He must know this well if he's sleeping. What is something that happens on the journey that you see off the side, far enough away that it's not going to impact you, Shaka, but that makes you nervous, possibly even makes you think about impending war?
I think we see a I think what we see is another of these ships, these barges traveling in the other direction. But it's decorated in a way that we know it's not from our land. And I think at first we all fear that it's going to come into conflict with us. And then we realize as we get a little bit better look at them, I think this is a group of tourists coming up to view our land. And, I think I try to convince Ganaganat to slow down and maybe stop so that I can go talk to them. But I think Ganaganat is kind of set. We have a schedule. We have to get there on time, and isn't listening to me. And I'm a little sullen about that. But because I wanted to go see what these tourists were like. But yeah.
Awesome. So you go to bed in your hammocks, and there's a fire pit burning and the door's open because it's warm enough and you want the smoke to exit. And by the middle of the next day, you have amazingly arrived at Aoya. And you see signs reminding you that you're close to the border and that your Nisi won't connect to the Daso and not to go into Eskin territory. And you know that you're not that far away, Ahote, from the place that you pictured. Do you all have convenient enough bags that you're just going to carry them with you and immediately go looking for this thing, or are you going to look to go into town first? Let's take one. Let's leapfrog one person, and this time start with Rich and go. Start with Dezba, and then go in character keeper order.
Got to travel light. This isn't a vacation. I've got everything in a rucksack kind of thing.
So
I'm ready to go.
You could hit the trail
Yeah.
and start looking for this thing. What about?
I've got food. I'm ready. Let's do this.
What about Shaka, the scout?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the same boat. I'm like, okay, I've been saving off food that I know will keep, and I'm ready to go. Although I'm more flexible, it depends on. I'm letting Ahote kind of, what's the right word? Give us direction. So if Ahote's like, oh, we need to stop here first, I have a bag that I could leave, and he'd be even lighter.
Okay. So you have a bag that you could leave behind if you wanted to take off right away.
Yeah, I think I've got a duffel bag that I've had the clothes for the past day or two and all that kind of stuff. And I've got it slung on my back, but I've got it separated out. So if we hit a spot where I can put it in a locker, I'm going to drop it off and be even lighter for wear.
Yeah, there's lockers here. Though you've basically landed in what looks like you can see signs for the city within about a half a mile, and you see a tree line in a forest, and you've landed in the clearing at the end of the plains before you get there. So the locker is more the equivalent of, like a wooden lean-to with some drawers. They're not actually going to lock. What about Ahote?
Yeah, I'm practically homeless, so I don't think I have a whole lot
Okay.
of belongings to take with me. Yeah.
Okay. So let's do our first roll just for the heck of it, and do some survival rolls, just for tracking, whichever you prefer. And we can use the dice roller on the safety tab. This will give us all a chance to do a little softball roll, hopefully. And let's start with, since Ahote is the one who had the vision, let's just start with Ahote here. You have no tracking, but you do have survival. You have survival 7, Ahote. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll. If you're in the dice roller, you're going to roll 7 d12s. And the easiest way to do that is just to type 7 d12 in the top. And if for some reason somebody can't use this dice roller, let me know if you have another tool you'd like to use. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's 9. Mhm.
Okay. So what we'll do is, yes, if you had to roll that many physical 12, that would be a lot. So the way this works, and you all may know this, but just in case, 12s are critical successes, 1s are failures. Anything above the success number, which the standard one is 8, so I'll just leave it at 8. Anything at 8 or above is a success. So you have 2 successes because you have a 9 and an 8, and you subtract one of those successes because of the failure. If you have at least 1 success, and it's just a check like this, you do the thing. If this was combat, it would get a little more complicated. The success number would be affected as a result of that person's body stat, whether they had armor, and then I've got the whole checklist there. So here you do it. So you have made your way. What about Dezba? Does Dezba want to use some survival or tracking? They're both 60-12s. So feel free to use
Exactly.
them.
They're both 60-12, and I think I'll go with the tracking. So here
Alrighty.
we go.
All right. So you have
Okay.
You have 0 successes because you have
0
a 10
success,
and a
1
1.
success, and 1 fail. Awesome.
Yep. If you wanted to, just to call out one other thing, if you wanted to ever try to change one of these, for example, you have 3 7s. Now, I'm not saying you should do this. It's probably not the best time to do it, but just as an example, if you wanted to take one of the 7s and make it into a success, if you scroll down the cheat sheet in column A, of the character keeper, it tells you you can spend 1 point of mind, which is the focus mechanic, and then you can raise a die that is not a failure by 1 value. So you could raise one of the 7s to an 8, and then you would actually have 1 success. But mind is a resource, and
it's also a terrible thing to waste.
Oh, there we go. Nice one. Okay. So I'm going to assume that you don't want to create a success and you're just going to follow in Ahote's path.
Yeah, I'm usually following Ahote into whatever couple.
All right.
I'm pretty sure I know what we're doing.
Okay. And Shaka, would you like to try to help lead everybody in the right direction using your 60-12 of survival or tracking?
Yeah, I'm going to try tracking. So let me roll that real quick.
Okay. All right. This is fun. This is like a tutorial in all the things. We got 1s, we got no successes, and now we got a critical. So you have 3 successes. You have a 10, you have an 8, and you have a 12. What this means is you have 3 successes plus you re-roll the 12. So roll 1 more d12 for that critical that you're going to re-roll here. Okay, and you got a 2. And 2 is under the target number, which is fine. It still gives you 1 more. If it had been above the target number, you would have gotten 2 successes. So you would have had 5 if it was 8 or above, but it's below 8. So you take the 3 original successes, and then this becomes another automatic success. So Shaka got 4 successes. Shaka, you want to tell us what it looks like walking around, beating through the bushes looking for this plant?
Yeah, so I think what ends up happening is I'm very excited about seeing all these strange people here in Iowa. And I think I talk and I think they peg me as a tourist until I head off into the into the woods nearby. And the pathway that I go looks like I've lived here all my life. It's like it's not on the trail, it's not on the typical touristy kind of place. And we start to see plants that, while they're not native of Cahokia where we're from, are similar. And I start pointing them out and saying, oh, this one is probably poisonous. This isn't something. And I kind of sort of give a tutorial of the background of what I think and lead us down in the direction that I think Ahote wants to go.
Awesome. And while you're doing this, you notice a rabbit that you haven't really seen before. How do you react to that? And I'm specifically asking, given that one of your short-term goals is animal husbandry.
Right. So I think I kind of put up a hand for everybody to kind of stop, and I watch it for a little while to see, what it's doing, and if I'm gonna try and stealth around, and see if I can't. Oh, it's not exactly. See if I can't get closer.
Mhm.
I think I'll know more about what the prey animals in this area are like by seeing how quickly it bolts, how it behaves, if it's used to people, that kind of thing.
And do you want to be stealthy or?
In this case, yes.
Okay, so let's roll some stealth here. So
Okay,
you
I think I
have
have it.
7d12 in stealth.
Yes. I should probably ask you what the target number is, but
It's usually 8, and I would say that
so in that case, this
yeah,
would be 3 successes. Yeah.
yeah, just leave it at 8 for um okay. So you are walking around this thing, and sorry, give me one moment. Oops.
The dice are really hot for me tonight. That's unusual.
I hope that's that way if we hit combat.
Oh yeah, it'll be the opposite.
Right.
Um yeah, it's a relatively normal looking rabbit. It just there's something that's just there's just something that's different than normal. What's a little bit different about this rabbit? Are the ears longer? Does it move differently? Is it climbing a tree when it doesn't normally do that?
Um, I think it's the noise that it makes. I'm used to rabbits who are much more quiet, and I think this one is basically purring as it feeds. Um, it's making a kind of a louder noise. Um, and as I get close to it, I'm really trying to see, when's it going to run away? Does it stop making that noise? Does that noise get louder? Is it trying to scare people off with that noise? So, yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't noticed you yet, but you do notice purple spots on it, just like you associate with the odd naughty. And so it's you do wonder if this thing it doesn't seem dangerous. The purple spots are normal, though you have heard of times where there are purple spots on animals, and it's become sort of cancerous. The purple has grown, and there have been boils on the animals, and that is called something like the chiasson. Um, so it makes you think of that for a second. You get nervous, but then you realize that this is maybe just a different species of rabbit, and you don't know if maybe the Audinati has had some kind of effect on it. With that, it looks up and it runs away. And as that happens, you notice that it was standing right next to the plant that you were looking for. So the three of you gather around it. Ahote, can you describe the physical characteristics of this plant and remind us? It does something with memories. Remind us, or do you smell the flower? Do you eat it? How do you activate its powers?
We had said that the pollen is what triggers the memory episode. I think it has a gosh, let's see. I think it has little flowers that grow in clumps. I think they're purple that fade to black on the outer edge of the petals. Um, and the leaves themselves are long and curling, almost like it's hugging the plant, like it's hugging itself.
Awesome. Do you take this and put it in a bag? Do you try to smell it? What are you doing with it right now?
So remind me, the vision, told me that people were using the plant
Yeah. They were
to
using
do
the plant.
experiments.
Yeah, they looked like they were feeding it to people um, in a laboratory. And you can see that there are one or two plants here, but those are the only ones you see.
But they were like forced experiments, or they just test subjects, or
It looked to you
mm,
like the people were out of it, like they were sleepy, so it made you nervous. You don't know if it
right.
was forced or as a result of the fact that they were taking pollen from something, but you
Yeah.
felt like the hair went up on the back of your neck when you had this vision. And as you're holding it and examining it, your Nisi goes off, and there is an alert, and the alert tells you that someone has been killed, and a body has been found, and you should watch out. As you take a look at that alert on your Nisi, how does Despa respond when you're approached quickly by somebody who actually is on horseback?
My war club is out, and I step in the way between where Shaka Ahote might be and this approaching horse, and just I have the club aimed low. It's a defensive, not a aggressive posture, but I will totally knock them off that horse if I need to.
Is it possible this person actually recognizes you? Or are you notorious enough to be recognized?
We could roll a d12 and find out.
Sure.
One
Why don't you
d12.
why don't you roll
If
that?
it's an 8 or better, they recognize
Exactly.
me. Oh, they
Okay.
don't.
But don't. Would you like to spend points of mind? Just kidding. So that they do it. So
3 points
is
of
it
mind.
is it a war club, or is it your
Oh, it's my war club. Yeah.
Okay. Whoa. He pulls the horse back and pulls it around so that it's not even facing you anymore. He puts his hands up. He says, "I'm a Quoni. I saw you were the only ones who got off the YouTube barge. Besides Chip and One Up and Gunna Got, you're on the border of Eskin territory. Someone was just killed. There's like a monster out here or a raging murderer. I'm just following up. You're not safe. I think you should come with me to town so we can talk about what's happening."
And he identified himself as what?
A Quoni.
To like a ranger or a official of some kind, or
Oh, okay. So no, Quoni has his name. I'm a Quoni no Sia Gasa Hatiti. I'm
Quoni's
from
his
the,
name. Okay.
yeah,
Sorry, I thought
yeah.
it was a title.
Yeah, no, I'm from this town. My grandpa died, so I'm here trying to get his spirit back safely. My family's in town mourning. I'm from Cahokia, like I assume you all are, looking you up and down, looking up Ahote in particular. Um, but I've been watching the town. I mean, something's going on here. Something's going on here at the least. I mean, we're on the border with the Eskins, but now, I mean, I can tell you about it here. Or I can tell you about it over some home cooking in my friend's restaurant. Chihan, she's a good cook, but basically, one of our spiritual elders was found dead on the border between Aoya and Eskin territory, and the police, they're not doing anything about it. They don't want to create an international incident. But I just think this is just a drop in the bucket of what's happening here. And, me and my friends are trying to figure out a way to, figure out what's going on. Like, I don't want to live in a place. I don't want my family to, my family doesn't really live here anymore, but I don't want slowly this to creep I don't want it to happen here where my grandfather lived for, the last 30 years of his life. For people to just creep over here, just kill whoever they want and have police not even investigate. Like, come with me. Let's go get some food. Like,
Can I do a reading and see if this guy is sincere or if he
sure.
has something? How does that work now?
Well, let's see. You have the ability to read the earth.
Right.
They can give you profound and valuable insights. If you want to use that, it would cost you 2 mind. And you would do a dice check. Otherwise, you could try to use a social skill. There is charm, which I'd be willing to just use if you wanted. There is coercion, which you don't personally have. And then we could also just do a straight up, let's see, perception check. If you wanted.
And okay. Right, let's see. Looks like right. Well, let's try charm. Let's
Yeah.
see. So that would be a 5, correct? A 5 die.
Yeah.
Wah, wah. High as a 5.
Yeah. But he seems harmless. I mean, despite the fact that so one of the things that I'd consider doing, and we're all familiar with consequences, right? One of the things I would consider doing is, if it's not a straight failure, well, I guess the way this game works is if you get a 1, that's a critical failure, you're supposed to have a consequence.
Mhm.
So but if you want this to be a success, I'm happy to also, if you guys are okay with this kind of house ruling, I'm happy to say if it's a failure that's not a critical failure, that you can get a success and there'll just be a consequence. Like, but it's either
Yeah.
way. Would you like to?
Yes.
Would you like it to just be a failure, or would you like it to be a failure with a success with a consequence?
Success with a consequence.
Okay. Yeah. So you know that this guy is sincere, and you can see from the way he's dressed that he so he's on the NPC tab. Not that necessarily is the, but you can see he looks like he's wearing Cahokian type fashion. He looks very confident. He has a lot of swagger, and he doesn't seem nervous. He seems like he's legitimately trying to protect you. I would say that but what happens is you hear a wolf howl not too far away. So with that, just jumping over to Dezba, are you tempted to go to the city, or do you want to stay here and poke around, look for more of this plant? What are your thoughts?
Ahote, we came here. We came here for them. He got his plant. He did offer food. Seems like Ahote and Shaka are cool with it. I'm good to go. We can leave.
Great. What about Shaka?
I think Shaka's distracted by the sound of the wolf nearby, and he's worried for his rabbit friend. So I think
The
he's
friend
kind of
now?
looking around. Yeah, it's a friend now.
Mhm.
Was the rabbit actually feeding on the plant, or just nearby?
It was eating seeds from the plant. It wasn't eating it was eating things that had fallen down off the plant, but it wasn't necessarily just that plant. It was getting whatever it could from wherever it could.
Okay, and so I think I'm a little bit distracted, but if everyone else decides to leave, I think I'll go with them.
Yeah, Aquoni says, We don't need to risk that being a Kayazan wolf. Come on, let's go. Let's go, folks. And he turns around and starts to get his horse to move at a quick pace. And assuming you all follow.
We don't have
Bring up
horses
the rear.
ourselves. Right?
You don't have horses, no.
Yeah.
What was that, Shaka?
I'll bring up the rear.
Okay. Okay. You head out of the woods, down a little beaten path into a and the woods continue, and you go through a clearing, down a path, and eventually the woods disappear and it all opens up and you see a town called Auia, Auia. It's in the distance, but you can see about 20 mounds out there, because the architecture is all mound architecture. He leads you, it's about a mile away, and he leads you through game territory. So you creep along, there's bison and deer roaming free. There's big plains with rolling hills, and you're creeping just to not disturb them. They're wild. There's hunters around, but your Nisi all warn each other to stay clear. So even if there's hunters, they're trying to legitimately hunt game for food. There's no sport or anything like that. But you know that you're safe because your Nisi will have a proximity, anonymous proximity alarm in this situation on the hunting grounds. You can see the ground become more and more lush. There's water nearby, and you go past an old historical mound. This mound is about 20 to 30 feet tall. There's somebody sitting outside of it, guarding it, and a few tourists who are visiting it. And this is a mound that was used probably 400 years ago, possibly even earlier than that, possibly even before the Awis. You continue to walk. You're about halfway there, and you think you spot some craft with Ezkin designs further away, but there's a border nearby, and they may be on the right side of the border, and they speed out of sight. And finally, you get to town, and you can now see up close the nature of the mounds. You see a market, a theater, a government office, just over a little stream. And you cross the stream, there's a little bridge over the stream, and in the stream, as you cross over it, you see small machines generating hydroelectric power. And on top of each of the mounds are windmills. One of them looks like a turbine sitting on top of one mound house. Another one looks like a honeycomb tube going up with lots of little fan blades. You're not really sure how it works. Maybe there's little fans in each of the holes of the honeycomb. And that's on top of the market and the theater. And you go past a government office. You see a hospital, a sign for a hospital, a sign for a greater downtown area, but you reach the restaurant. The restaurant is called Manand Damwin. And as you enter the restaurant, you realize if this is anything like Cahokia, there may be underground tunnels for shelter connecting these in the really cold winter months. So let's go into Madonwin. Working at Madonwin is Chihan. So the gentleman you're with introduces him. He says, "This is one of my oldest friends. Actually, you know what? I think this is sorry about that. This is Tahun. Tahun works here. Forget about Chihan. Bear with me for one moment." Sorry about that. Some people going off to bed. So, yeah, Tahoon is a female, very muscular, is wearing a short shirt to stay cool in the kitchen. And you see sun dappling through an open roof. So the mounds are usually you only use the levels that are underground. In the nice weather, they use the levels that are above ground. But this one actually has something unusual. It has an open roof with a crisscross design. There's rough-hewn beams. There's honeysuckle and wisteria growing. And there's retractable skylight panels running to the top of the mound, sort of like a window inset in the front, not on the very top. It's letting in the clear, cool air. Is it tuna? Tahoon. Let me get rid of Chihan off of this thing. Let's see, Tahoon. Yeah, Tahoon is cooking over an earthen oven. There is a cooking fire built directly into the stone floor. There's a cooking grate over the fire, and there's a lot of heavy-looking pots filling the space with comforting home cooking aromas. They're even beguiling. And there is a table set with a motley of handmade terracotta tableware, linen-lined baskets with warm chestnut bread, jars. You can see jars in the kitchen that have kaleidoscopic hued pickled vegetables. And sitting on the table that he takes you to are steaming pitchers of fragrant tea, which you know have curative herbs and relaxing floral notes. Chefs are frequently also healers. So Akwoni sits you down, and Tahoon pulls up a chair with you and welcomes you all. And Akwoni says, let's give them a nice welcome. They've come a long way. With that, they then give you a bowl of rabbit stew. Does anybody want to say anything before the conversation?
Does Shaka get upset
begins?
when we start adding rabbit stew?
Exactly.
No, I think that's fine. Rabbit's delicious. So I think I'm going to ask Akwani if they know anything about the plant that we just, found. I want to make sure that they're not going to feed it to us or something like that, because Ahote has said before that the people were made sleepy like that, and I want to make sure that we're not going to get dosed.
He takes a sip of the tea and he says, no. I'm not even familiar with this plant you're talking about. Please tell me about it, but we have something urgent we need to talk about. Thank you for your patience while we were coming here. As I mentioned, the elder in this town was found dead on the border, and it was our spirit leader, Wihanka. And it's all the more a mystery why the police would not investigate somebody as important as this. I mean, they're looking into it. The Suyata here are looking into it, but I don't believe that they're being thorough. I mean, I've started patrolling at night just to try to make sure that things are safe. And I just don't think I see a lot of activity from them. Tahoon takes a sip of the tea as well, and says, "There's no reason to drink this if you don't want to." I apologize that I'm offering you this at the moment where you happen to be going to look for plants. And she laughs it off. Um,
I'll drink some tea.
yeah, it's you feel good drinking it. I mean, you just like dissolve into your seat, but you're not toast at all. What about Dezba? Does Dezba have any questions for them?
Do you think that they're not investigating? You don't understand why? What makes you feel like they're lying to you?
Um, I've gone past the police station, asked them for updates. I know it just happened. It just happened yesterday, last night. It was discovered this morning. And I've been there twice, and they haven't even left their office. I think they went and got the body and came back, and they're just sitting around doing paperwork. Looking a little bit, one of them looks nervous, but the other one, the guy in charge looks nervous, but the other guy doesn't even seem to care. I I'm tempted to go to the council and speak with the government officials here because something is off. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to put it. I just would think that this would be a matter of urgency. Um,
What
Hmm.
what do you know of the manner of his death?
yeah, he was found with big gash across his face, and it was actually it was one of my friends who found him. Dassy found him. Dassy Taloni. She was out sitting in the there's a tree that she sits in. The Chizzy Chan, she calls it, the tongue tree. Because that's where she sits and she takes her drugs. She's puts them under her tongue. I got to get her to stop doing that. But she was there, and she saw a vehicle come through, and she didn't think anything of it. And then the next day, the body was found. So it's embarrassing because she was not in a state where she necessarily was completely coherent, but she admitted to me later that she saw a van come. So I think somebody dumped a body on the border, and it was one of ours. So the question is right, like, do we care about trying to actually I mean, we could just let this go. We could just say, look, we're in a border town, this is dangerous, stuff like this happens, but I don't want this town to slip into that state, especially for a spiritual leader who, I mean, was violently killed.
Was the van heading back towards Escon territory?
I think so. She didn't really pay attention to it, but if you look at the map, and so if you look at the map, it was very much this tree that he's talking about is across from the Sika Mika Hotel, which is right near the border crossing.
And on the map, basically, it's the dark red is where the border is. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The dark red is all Eskin territory. And it's it's been an hour that we've been playing. So if we take a break, let's take a 10-minute break and come back to this. Okay, so we are sitting at the restaurant, and is there anything, basically, Aquoni says, I think we should, I mean, do you want to help me? I think we should try to figure out what's going on here. If not, I suggest you guys leave and go back to Cahokia because it's only to get more dangerous here.
Ahote,
Shaka?
I'm not sure what your plans are, but I'm not sure I'm ready to leave yet. I'd kind of like to look around a little bit more. Um, what do you think?
He's gonna look at all at the faces of the people there. Um, and he'll end up looking again at he'll look at Shaka, but then he'll end up looking at Akoni and just ask, what is your stake in this? You speak of your grandfather's that this was your grandfather's place, but your grandfather has passed. What obligation holds you here?
Oh yeah, the rest of my family is mourning here, and they are finding it hard to move on. And I don't believe my grandfather has totally moved into the spirit world. I think that things here feel tense, nasty, and I don't think that people are moving on the way that they should. I want to. I spent a lot of time here when I was younger, so I know the people. There's a farmer here who Tahun gets her food from. The Katsinad. And Tahun said that he seemed scared. I mean, just imagine if your neighbors back at Cahokia were, seemed scared and upset and unable to grieve. I mean, you probably would want to understand. You don't have the same personal connection that I have. Does that make sense?
Because of because of the kindness you've shown us and the hospitality, I'm willing to stay a night and see if there's more hidden beyond just the murder that evil men do. If it is as you say that the spirit world is also a turmoil, then I look at Shaka. I will help.
Oh, do you have special interest in the spirit world?
I believe that for the spirits to be at unrest is a greater concern, forgive me, than the wrongs that neighbors do to each other.
Oh yeah, no, there's no need for forgiveness. We're in the freelance. There's lots of different perspectives on how things should go, but I can respect that. Okay, well, look, I mean, it's just the afternoon. Um, I'm considering visiting. And you're welcome to come with me. Visiting my old farmer neighbor, Thakat Sinad, or speaking to the local government to see if they know why the police are not moving faster, or going to the hotel where I think he was living. I mean, you all know out of character that hotels are kind of the exception. Most people stay with other people they know. So I think he was living there or working there. I have a friend, yeah, Dasa Talani, who I mentioned to you before.
The elder was
she
living.
she works there. Yeah.
Isn't
He-
is that strike us as strange that the elder would be living in a hotel?
I can ask Dasa Taloni. I'm not sure why he was.
I'd also be interested in seeing the tongue rock with your friend, um, Desalatoni, right? Who was
The tongue
there?
tree.
Yeah.
Uh, sure. Well, let's. She's going to be at the hotel now. I mean, she's. She's probably still riding high off the accelerants that she took. I wonder if she ever went to sleep. So you all walk. You walk down the street, and again, it's mound architecture. So you're really walking on grass, and these mounds look like natural structures in the earth. And the hotel is to get there, you have to walk further south through the downtown and business area, and you see a nightclub there called Minotanami. You see a store specializing in exotic tech called Papa Patak. You can see across the border a couple of structures that are have Eskin writing on them. It looks like maybe a nightclub and a restaurant. You go past the border crossing and you make it to the Sika Mika Hotel, where Dasid Taloni comes out from behind the counter and gives Akwoni a big hug and smile. Oh boy, excuse me. Sorry. Dasalatoni has a patch over one eye, and she sees you all and looks Ahote up and down, sort of half smiles at the way he looks, and looks at Shaka, and is sort of nods a little bit impressed. And impressed for some reason by Shaka, maybe reading Shaka as somebody who knows how to use weapons, knows how to hunt. She sort of stands with her legs a little bit far apart, like a little bit tough and rambunctious. And she says, Kwoni, what do you need? Is this about what Wihanka? And he nods, says, what was Wihanka doing here? And she explains that you look around and you see that this place looks very soft. Doesn't look like a hotels that you normally have seen. It looks more like maybe a hostel. There may be a private room here, but there's one big brightly lit room with very, very soft cushiony beds. Looks like perhaps people share the room, but it looks like really only one bed was being slept in, like there wasn't a lot of business here. There's a hallway, and if you went down the hallway, you would see that there are some private rooms there. But she said, yeah, this is where he stayed. He felt a real connection here. He felt like there was something that he was trying to tap into, and it was disturbing him. And this was a place of peace. He liked the light, and he liked the air. So I think he was getting old enough that he was trying to make himself comfortable, and this was a good place for him to be able to walk the black and go into the spirit world. I didn't really, I liked his company. I didn't really ask him too much about why. And she said that he felt like there was a spirit out there that was killing animals in the game territory, and he hadn't totally put his finger on it yet, but it was I think he had visited the game territory, the Hawoso Hikanu game territory near the farm that our friend lives at. So, you know, he even mentioned maybe a bear spirit. So I mean, it's kind of ironic that I thought when I heard the description, I thought that he had a claw to his face, and she stumbles over her words, and Akoni pushes her, and she says, "Yeah, I saw him when he was dead. I didn't want to tell anybody. I was hoping that it wasn't real. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do." But she said she saw that there was a claw, what looked like a claw gash on his face.
Do the police know that you found the body?
She says, no, I didn't want to tell them. I put in an anonymous tip. I didn't want to tell them it was me. I have, she starts tapping her foot. She's like, sometimes I have a bad reputation. I came here to calm down, after, well, I had a colorful past. I came here to get off the radar, but I brought some things, and she shakes like a little clay jar she has that's full of pills. Some things follow me. I didn't want them to think that I had anything to do with this. I mean, he was living at the hotel that I work at. Does Shaka have any questions or want to look around or?
So you said you thought you saw a bear claw gash? What made you think this was a bear claw gash as opposed to one from a weapon?
It had multiple stripes on it. His face had, our eyes go a little bit glassy. His face had 3 stripes of maybe it wasn't a bear, but he had mentioned that there was a bear spirit. So I don't know how a spirit could do that though, but that's why I thought of a bear. Could have been an animal, could have been a weapon. Oh, she sighs. She doesn't really want to talk about it. She will, but it's upsetting her. And Aquoni says, okay, so you said that there was a bear spirit scaring animals. And she nods. He says, well, we were going to go talk to farmer anyway. We could go there. Maybe he knows something about it. And Aquoni says, look, Dasi, we've been the 5 of us. And then he looks around and he's like, yeah, I mean, I spent so much time here as a kid that I've got a lot of friends in this town, and the 5 of us, maybe we should split up and actually, patrol and see if there is an animal here. I don't want it to hurt anybody else. I mean, it could be living in the tunnels, right? Like it could have just run away. If it was an animal, we could try to track it. I don't know if the guys in the border, I don't think an animal is going to respect border crossing. Could have crossed anywhere. But maybe the border cops saw something. I don't know. Well, maybe it makes sense to look at the scene of the crime. You said you wanted to see the cheesy chan anyway. And he helps himself to some water from a terracotta pitcher that's sitting there, and looks at you all.
Yeah, I think we should. I think the first place we should look is the scene of the crime, because that's whatever's clues might be there will could get destroyed as time passes.
Okay, let's go. So he takes you out to it's nearby. The tree is just it's just south of the Sikamika Hotel, and it's a big tree that just is overgrown, and it's grown enough that you can like climb up and sit in it. And Dasi goes with you, and she's looking a little bit nervous because this is a place where she takes drugs, and it's making her think of that. I should realize I should look up the safety tools here. Anybody needs to add anything about that, feel free to. And so she says, yeah, it was I saw the van drop something over there. And you do see there are some purple lights that basically the police have put around. You could definitely walk through them. You're familiar with these, but these are like the equivalent of like a police do not cross evidence type of thing. But clearly the police have come and gone. They're not there anymore. And you could do some investigation and try to get a better idea of what is there if somebody wants to. Does Shaka want to do that?
I think we should definitely investigate. I have a rules mechanic question. How does
Yeah.
helping work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't remember.
If you're not sure,
finding-
we can just keep going, and I think
I haven't
Ahote
found
might be
anything
able.
about helping.
Okay, Ahote, did you want to investigate, or would you like for me to?
I think you, well, I mean, you're definitely the better tracker. So while you do that, maybe I'll get like a higher vantage point from the tree to
Okay.
see, you know, to see if there's any areas that might, I don't know, any clues that I can see from that vantage point and
So I
help you
think
that
you
way.
have, I
Yeah.
think you have a better investigation than I do. So
Right.
I think you can, from your vantage point, can look out and see what's going on, and I'll come at it from a tracking point of view to see if I can find bear tracks or, van tracks or anything like that.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Let me roll my tracking first to see what I find. So I'm going to roll that.
Okay.
And again, I should have asked you what the difficulty level was before I rolled, but
No, it's okay. It's easier if you don't ask, because then I can just make it up. Just
okay,
kidding.
perfect.
No,
So
it's always going to be an 8 unless I can think of a reason. Like if it's darkness
fantastic.
or something like that,
So that would be 3 successes and no ones.
Yep. All right. And this is for tracking?
This is for tracking. I said I was looking for bear tracks or wild animal tracks or van tracks or something like that to see what's been in the area. I would expect that police officers would be here and they took away a body, but I'm looking for things before that. Yeah.
Yeah, you find what looks like wolf tracks, and they are heading in the direction that you came from in the woods.
Back where we originally were, where we found the plant.
Yeah, which was a ways away, because that was, you had to cross through game land and all of that, but they're heading back out of town.
And is this a lone wolf or is this a pack?
This was a lone wolf.
Okay. And that's kind of what we heard before in the woods was like a single wolf call, not call and
Yeah.
response. Okay.
Yep, that's right. Yep. So heading out of town, and Ahote, what are you doing?
You're right. So I am gonna climb up the tree, the tall tree, and sit and see if there are any clues I can figure out from here. Any
Sure.
vegetation, trampled and stuff like that. So let's roll. 6. 6 is the highest.
So what you can do here is, if you want, you can spend 2 points of mind to raise that 6 to an 8, in which case you would have an 8 and you'd have a success.
Yes, I'll spend that.
Great. So yeah, so you find yeah, you find you find as well tracks, wolf tracks, and you see blood there, and you see trying to think of you see what looks like a um a scale, a little solar panel that has basically scraped against a rock or fallen off, and it looks like it belongs to some kind of Yutsu, which, possibly that was the Yutsu that Dasi saw drop this body off, and it is like a red hexagon. So perhaps you could find a Yutsu missing that, and that would give you a sense of what Yutsu was here, whether or not they were the ones that actually dropped it off. That's, yeah. So that's what you've got. Aquone is looking around as well, and Dasi is biting her fingernails. And Aquone, let's see, let's take a look at this map for a second, see what's around here. Aquone says, well, we're not that far from the farm. If Wihanka was thinking there was a spirit there, Hote, you know something about spirits? I mean, are you able to actually try to understand if there's can you walk the black? Can you travel in spirit form and look for spirits?
You can only walk the black if you have that ability, correct? Or is there other ways? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could always try, and we could try to homebrew something and see if that would get you there, but you don't have the ability, so you don't know how to do it. You'd really be fumfering around.
What about this would are there any ceremonies that would apply here to help in
There is no ceremony, though. Your ability, read the earth.
Oh yeah. Right.
It seems like that would actually work. Give you profound and valuable insights about the world around you. Information might be hard come by otherwise. And if you did it in the Sikamika Hotel, which is such a place of calm, and this, spiritual elder was using it, I mean, perhaps it would even give you a bonus, because you could really focus. That's really what this is about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was planning to stay at the hotel anyway.
Yeah.
So actually we at the shaman's room, so that fits well.
All right. Yeah. Dasi says in a really kind of calm voice, okay, yeah, we can get you there, and the rest of us will stay out, and you can have focus. And if you want, you can sit down on the cushions and tell us what it looks like when you're doing this, going into this trance. You spend you have to spend 2 more mind for this.
Should I wait till we're back at the hotel or
Oh, that's what I was saying. Like,
yeah.
Let's
Okay.
assume we're back there, because you guys were just pretty much right outside the hotel. Unless, Shaka, you want to do something else.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, I think while we were out there, this tree is it kind of like a mystical type tree, or is it just an old tree?
So Dazi blushes and says, Aquona, you told him why I call it the Chizzy Chan, right? And he says, yeah, it's because Chizzy is tongue, and you dissolve your accelerant drugs underneath your tongue. That's why it's called the Chizzy Chan, just because you like to sit there and take your drugs. This is just it's a cool tree. I don't know anything mystical about it.
Hmm.
You might know more than me. I mean, if you want to sit there and try it, go ahead. Maybe there is actually something to it. And he looks at it and he's like, this is a pretty cool tree. And now he's thinking about it.
Uh, I asked Doozy, did the elder ever come out to this tree?
Yeah, he would come out and look at it. Yeah.
All
He
right.
didn't really tell me. I never thought of that. He didn't really tell me what he thought about it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do this in a natural setting, I think.
Awesome. And yeah, you're probably going to have a similar type of bonus there. As long as everybody stays away from you, you'll be able to concentrate. So your success number will be lower. So let's say you're sitting up in the tree. And,
Yeah,
maybe
I
tell
make
us
sure I'm
what it looks like.
secure. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. You won't have to roll acrobatics. Yeah, so tell us what it looks like. Everybody's stepping away, maybe going into the hotel, watching you through the window without you knowing, just so that they're really not making noise or sneezing or something.
I think
Tell us what it looks like.
yeah, I think I picked like, little plants from around the tree. And I think I have like a little I don't know what you'd call it, like a mini incense brazier or something, where I put them and light it and keep that near me. Uh and and then I just kind of stare. I mean, anyone looking at me would just see me staring off into space. But I think I think I'm doing kind of like like with like like the the magic eye thing that we have in for children,
Mhm,
where you're kind of not really focused on anything, so that you can see
mhm,
something that's there that's not there. Um,
mhm.
and right, right. I'm just curious if the elder spirit might still be around here.
Okay. So spend those 2 points of mind.
And that's the cost for using an ability, or
Yeah, if you look at the long description,
oh, okay,
your activation is 2 mind.
gotcha.
Desba's is 1 mind. Shaka's is 1 soul. I think they try to balance it based on the you know, the value and power.
Gotcha.
And then it's going to be an endurance. What does it say? Endurance and wisdom roll. So you're going to add, so it's going to be 8 dice because endurance and wisdom together is 8. And the success number is going to be 6, given you're in the state and the elder used to be there.
All right, 3 successes, no ones.
Okay, so what were those numbers? 3 6s. If you want to spend any more mind, so there is a table at the bottom. It tells you critical failure gives you this, failure gives you this, 1 to 2 gives you this, 3 to 4 gives you this, 5 plus gives you this. So if you wanted to spend 2 more points of mind, you could increase your 2 5s to 2 6s, and then you would have 5 successes.
I should probably ask how does one regain mind?
So if you roll over the short rest and the long rest,
Okay.
a short rest, you do an endurance check, and a wisdom check and a will check. If you get a wisdom check, and for every success you get on the wisdom check, you get a point of mind back. For a long rest, you also get mind back equal to your wisdom stat. So if you did a long rest, by default, you would get 4 back.
Oh, okay.
So you're in, 11 is a very high stat, so you're in pretty good territory.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I spend the 2 to get the 5 successes then.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so you, just for myself and for us all, you get a detailed answer to your question and some vague clues about the greater context around the question. Okay, this is a pretty juicy one then. And the idea is to get profound and valuable insights about the world that might be hard pressed to come by otherwise through a vision, and it's through a vision obtained while in a trance-like state. It's often not literal and is given by the story guide through description of the vision, series of cryptic images, or dreamlike experience. Okay. Forms a check. Yeah, success number can go up or down based on surrounding circumstances. Character deep trance, only awakened by the end of the vision by character damage or physically dragging out. If that's early, and you pointed out, you wanted to, one thing that you said maybe as an aside was if the elder spirit was around. Now I should have asked you, I guess, everything else about this as well. I was pointing out that there was possibly a bear spirit somewhere. I thought that's what we were going to do, but if I was wrong about that, let me know if there was something else you were looking for out of this. Were those the kinds of things you were looking for? An understanding of a possible bear spirit and understanding if the elder spirit is around, or is there something else to add to that, Ahote?
Right. Ideally, I like to know who killed him and why.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So Ahote has read the earth and through this ability. And you see that the elder spirit is walking past an antelope who is on the farm that you for some reason realize this is, you recognize the farm. Like you can see, you're at the farm and you can see the tree, and you probably shouldn't be able to, but you can see the tree in the hotel that you're at now from the farm. So you actually have a compass direction based on your triangulation, so to speak, and or your perspective. And it's the farm that's on the map, Hawoso Hikanu, and you're standing over the shoulder, and the elder is actually stroking the antelope. And as you think the elder is just stroking the antelope kind of lovingly, but the elder is touching a gash on the antelope's hindquarters. And the gash is glowing a light blue, and there looks like a sort of a smoke or an aura coming off of it. And the antelope doesn't really seem to notice that it's there. And then you hear a roar, and you turn around, and behind you there is a bear spirit, arms up, and you know it's a spirit because it is also glowing blue, looks translucent. It still looks terrifying, but it does look like it has purple boils on it. and you recognize it as what you've heard of as the Kayazan. And you can even see that the claw mark on the antelope, the elder has a claw mark on his face, and the claw mark on the antelope looks different. And you see driving around on a Yutsu, sorry, flying around, you see a barge, and little red solar panels are falling off of it. And you see it racing, and they're not supposed to really be able to go over the water. Usually need skimmers, but you see it race up a hill and jump over that hill, over the water, into what you know is Eskin territory. And as you do that, you can see that the people in the Yutsu barge are wearing what you recognize as research gear. And you see that they're racing towards the Hoki Kapi research facility. You notice a leash hanging off the side of the barge, and it looks like it has broken and has blood on it. And you look at the elder's face, and your hand reaches up to touch it, and as you do it, you hear a wolf howl. And you turn around to look at the wolf, and there is no wolf, but there is the bear, and it races towards you, and you put your hands up to stop it, but it moves through you, and it runs up to the antelope and goes inside the antelope and possesses the antelope. And the antelope runs off. And the antelope runs off in the direction that the Yutsu went. So it runs off in the direction of the Hoki Kapi research facility. Let's see, is there anything else? Yes, there's one other thing. One of the people riding in the Yutsu fires a mag sling at you, and stands up with his hands in the air. And he's wearing a mask that has glowing orange eyes. And this weapon that he's shooting at you, this mag sling, looks military, but he does not look military. He looks like somebody who stole some military gear and is celebrating. And he's in that Yutsu with people who look like they're wearing research gear, and they're shaking their head and they pull him down. And with that, the bullets from the mag sling hit you, and you wake up, and you are not damaged. So it's pretty clear to you from that, given your experienced reading the Earth, it's pretty clear to you that this research lab across the border in the Eskin area is it's their vehicle. They had some kind of animal. That animal hurt this spirit leader, and they've got what looks like some criminal sitting in their jutsu with them. And on top of all that, there appears to be some kind of outraged spirit. And it looked like it was angrily running towards the research facility. Now, you don't think that necessarily is all literally happening, but it's all very directional. Is that fair? Is that a fair description for the role that you got?
Oh, I feel like I got a lot.
Yeah.
Even if I
5
don't
plus.
understand everything yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Huh.
So while that's happening, Shaka, I'm not sure. You can also tell me how long you think that's going on for. I know Shaka is a curious one, and is Shaka sticking around while this is happening? Is Shaka going off with a Quoni and exploring? What is Shaka doing?
Shaka takes his responsibility very seriously. He knows that while Ahote is in a trance, he's in a weakened state. And we know someone has already died here. So I think he's basically standing guard, keeping a lookout to make sure nothing comes physically. He can't do anything about, bear spirits, but he can certainly keep bears from coming up here. So yeah. So I think that's
Yeah.
all he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And as that happens, as you're vigilantly waiting at the Sikamika Hotel, there's a knock on the door, and Dasi looks out and says, "Oh, Thaka," and opens the door, and Aquoni says, "Come on in." Shh. And you sort of realize that you saw this guy walking towards you from far away, and it's the farmer. And he's got bags in his hands, and he's got a whole Yutsu sled outside with lots of stuff on it. He's like, just wanted to bring you some potatoes. That's all I can afford to give you at this moment. And he looks at you guys, and he's like, well, what's going on here? And he looks nervous and distracted. Do you talk to him, Shaka?
Yeah, I think I tell him, my friend here, we're from out of town, and my friend here is actually trying to commune with the spirits here to find out more about what's going on. So you say you're a farmer. What kind of things do you farm? And I basically I'm engaging him with his livelihood, what he does. If anything, I'm kind of trying to distract him, but I'm also trying to find out, does he have any information about the plant that we came here? Or I even say, oh, I saw this really strange rabbit. It was purring, and is this the same kind of rabbit that we ate in the stew? Or, do the wolves nearby, prey on these things? Can you tell me what's going on? Just to keep him engaged and not, what's the right word? Not interfere. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes. Not interfere with, I'm sorry, just to make sure I'm
With the Ahote.
got it. Yeah. Yeah, he says, well, where do I start? Yeah, no, those rabbits, all the rabbits here purr.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. who gave it to you? To whom? Yeah, she uses the purring rabbits. Yeah, I mean, sure, the wolves prey on these things. The kinds of things that I farm, yeah, I farm a lot of the Three Sisters, and you know what the Three Sisters are. You have all heard of this, um, especially if you've read the book. It's corn planted in the center of a mound. The beans and squash are planted at the base, and the corn provides support for the beans to climb through the squash vines. And it's a whole intricate little system. And it's described as sisters support each other, so does the corn support the beans and the squash. And the beans hold them all together, pulling nitrogen from the air and soil to nourish all the plants. The squash spreads along the ground, and the large leaves of the squash shade the roots and prevent weeds from growing. And the prickly hairs of the vine keep pests away. But he doesn't say all of that to you. He just says, yes, I plant a lot of sisters. I have potatoes, lots of vegetables, and I'm nearby the game territory. And with that, his face goes a little bit white. He says it's not been pleasant to watch recently. Something is upsetting the animals. So you talk about spirits. That was what Wahanka thought. Wahanka thought that there was a spirit out there upsetting the animals. I wish I knew. I'm and he doesn't want to say anything. And Akoni says, Thaka's superstitious. Anyway, so yeah, I was just on my way to I own the market in town, and I can grow this stuff all morning, and I've got to actually sell it. So I'm running a little bit late, but I need to get to the market. And he points to his sled, and it's got covered in tons of food. Got to actually sell this stuff. Did I answer all your questions? Are you on mute?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think you answered all my questions. The only other question I really have is I show him the herbs that Ahote and I came to find with the pollen, and ask him if he's seen many of these growing in the wild.
Yeah, he says he's never seen this before, and he looks truly fascinated. And he asks you where you found them, and you point that out to him. He says, I can look into this if you want. I can try to understand this a little better when I'm not rushing so fast. Do you want to leave some with me?
No, I don't want to bother you. We'll drop by your market later. But I'm trying to find out more about this strange plant. I'm just of the curious sort, and I'm trying to find out. I specifically saw this plant near where the rabbit was, and I thought it might have to do with the rabbits don't purr where I come from. So I thought it might be something strange there. But it turns out if the rabbits here all purr, then that's not unusual. So I just wanted to see if there was some native plant that might be causing problems. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, the purple on it looks like Adenati, so but I've never seen this before. I've seen plants with Adenati on it before, but I've never seen something that I've just never seen this plant. And it makes me wonder if this plant mutated. If it's like the Adenati and this plant somehow became hybrid. Maybe the Adenati landed on the seeds. I've crossbred plants before. Maybe they landed on the seeds and it came up with a whole new plant. Yeah, listen, just do me a favor, bring that to the farm when you come by. I understand you don't want to let go of this precious thing. Please keep this safe.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to go out with you sometime and find more of this if you can help me find it. And then he nervously looks over in the direction of what you think is the research lab. And he says, maybe don't come by the farm. If you do, send me an EC so I can let you know that it's all clear. I'm having some problems with my neighbors.
Okay. Okay. I'll do so. Thank you
And
for your help.
oh, of course. And with that, he with that, he says, okay, so I should be going. At the market in town. Very nice to meet you. And Ahote, we've now caught up in time, and Ahote is done with the trance. And we are Ahote, do you come back to the hotel? Or do you sit there and open your eyes and just take a while to yourself?
I think it would be fun if I fell out the tree and not necessarily take damage, but like when the
Right,
guy
right.
when the guy shoots me, I awaken
Ah,
and fall off.
nice. Everybody runs up to you to see if you're okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I show that I landed on a patch of mushrooms. I
and
broke my fall.
I assume, you know, all this information is shared, unless we say it's not shared. So I assume you tell them about the vision.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And at that point, Quoni says about the guy with the mask and the golden eyes. He says, it's the it's the it's the golden spiders. I mean, he has a Chahi word for it, but I forget what that is. He says that's Puanti. He Puanti. Yes, Puanti owns the nightclub. Yeah, the Mazakazi Tomi gang is the Golden Spiders. He runs the Eskin nightclub, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's a legit business and somebody from the research firm helped fund it. Maybe that explains why the two of them are in that jutsu together. Puanti's a gang leader. He's like doubly able with the Adenati. There's something weird going on with him where he should have aged, but he just doesn't age. When the Adenati is administered, it's to adolescence. And this Puanti has been around way too long to continue to be a teenager. And he seems very powerful, and he wears this weird mask, which I don't know if it's just to scare him, but just to scare everyone. But if he's got something to do with it, that means he's Eskin. It means the Eskins are involved. And maybe we should go visit their nightclub, the Tomiyaki.
What are you aware of some connection between Puanti and a research facility? Does he?
Maybe he works for them. I mean, maybe he's laundering money through them. I don't know what the connection is. But maybe somebody who works there has also invested in this nightclub. You know, I don't know why it would, but
Got it. That's where they're getting the people. to experiment on, is my guess.
Yeah, or maybe he's just stealing stuff for them. Maybe he is providing equipment for them. And Dasi says, I don't think you want to go to an Eskin nightclub. And Aquoni says, well, look, they come on our side. We can go on their side. We're not actually at war with them. And so they're arguing with each other a little bit about the safety of it. And then Aquoni says something like, Dasi says something like, they're called the Golden Spiders. I mean, they're not the kind of people you want to hang out with. We don't call ourselves the Golden Spiders. And then Aquoni says, he looks over at you guys and he says, we call ourselves Muddy Brown, the cool new gang. But that's just because we all grew up together in the dirt here. Yeah, we're not a real gang. I mean, we're just friends. Anyway, so and with that, Dasi says, I can't talk about this, and she storms out, and Aquoni's a little bit nervous and says, hold on. You know how it is with addicts. I'm sorry. He runs out chasing after her. What do you want to do?
I had a question.
Yeah.
Can you just by looking, are there racial ethnic differences that mark someone as can, like automatically, like, hey, oh, that person's from the Ascan Empire?
Oh, I would say that just out of my own like sensitivity and everything,
Sure.
I would say that there are slight fashion differences. Yeah. Like slight tech differences, right? So some of the fashion and art and tech are all tied up together. If you saw somebody's weapon, you would definitely recognize it. If you saw their Nisi, you would recognize it. Other than that, fashion is harder to tell. People can pass as different groups, but the Nisi, the phone type thing on the arm, the computer on the arm, that would be the most distinctive thing to recognize.
So if that was covered, I mean, we could technically disguise ourselves.
Yeah. And as long as you didn't you could speak Chahi to people for a while, but if you spoke Chahi from one Eskin to another, they would be like, why are you speaking Chahi?
Sure. Okay.
So you might want to keep your mouth shut. What is Shaka thinking right now?
Shaka's fascinated, wants to go back to the farm at some point once Thaka, is done. And there's a lot of stuff here. So maybe we should get a feel for the authorities and head back to just get a feeling for what they're doing. If they've got something, if they're on the take, we want to know. If they are not going to pay attention to us if we cross the border, we want to know. So I think I'd like to know where we stand.
Yeah. Makes sense. Ahote, what are you thinking? It sounded like your line of questioning was in order to try to get to the club, but you tell me, what's Ahote thinking about doing?
Oh yeah, no, if we want to go to the police, I wouldn't mind trying to break in and see the body. While maybe other people distract the police or something.
Yeah, it sounds good. So if as soon as you step outside, you see Aquoni and Dasi are there, and they're totally happy to help with anything. And they both look at each other and say, yeah, we well, and then Dasi says, no, you, but Aquoni says, yeah, I'm pretty good at breaking into things. at least using, my Nisi, if that's what you mean, electronically. And yeah, so the police station is it's at the border crossing. So you're gonna just try to stake it out, basically, Shaka, is that what your thought is? Watch the comings and goings, or are you actually trying to break in like Ahote is suggesting?
So my thought was actually to go to talk to the authorities to find out why they're not investigating more of the elders' murder. To see what they know about the bear spirit or the Ezken attacks or something
Mhm.
like that. Just get a feeling for what they're doing and where they're
So
coming
is it
from.
so there's for what it's worth, there's a local government and then there are the police. So when you say authorities, do you mean the government or the police?
I would think that the police would be the one trying to investigate the murder, right?
No, I agree. I just wasn't sure if that's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you just want to straight up walk in there and talk to them?
Yeah, I'm gonna go in and tell them that I'm concerned for my friend's safety. We just arrived here from Cahokia, and we've heard that there's been a murder of an elder. If it's not safe, we want to go back. And we're here to gather herbs that we think that are important trade back in Cahokia, and get a just get a feel for them and say, I think this is important, and see how they treat with that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you, while that's happening, Hote, are you hoping that somebody will that will partly be used as a distraction to break in, or
Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna see if there's like a, with Quoni's advice, um, an opportunity to get into their morgue or whatever they're calling it.
sure? Um, okay, so Dasi is going to say, "Look, I'm going to come with you, and if push comes to shove, I'm a witness. I didn't come forward before. Plus, he stayed at my house. They're going to want to speak to me. So, worst case scenario, if I have to come in and the distraction is, like, say I have evidence and I can probably distract them enough uh, and looks over to Quoni so you guys can find some other way in. Maybe you don't have to physically go in. Maybe you can just hack your way in."
Part of my interest is we're talking about going over into Ezcan territory, and I
Mhm.
want to see, will the police, are they lackadaisical, so they're not
Mhm.
interested in the murder investigation, but they also wouldn't be interested in us going across the border? Or are they on the take, so they're not interested in the murder, but they'd definitely be interested in us crossing the border? I kind of want to get a feel for that. I'm not that interested in, you know, uh,
Yeah.
uh, questioning them too much. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so we can also massage this so you don't have to have the exact details down, but tell me how this looks. We've got you make it up to the building. Quoni and Dasi are with you, and there are, as you said, there are two people in the office. There's one who's sitting more in like the guard station side of it. And this is a mound, just like the rest of the structures. You can't tell that anything is being used on the top. There is yet another wind. It just looks like a much more like a windmill that you'd normally be used to sitting on top of this thing. And it sounds like you just walk in the front door, Shaka,
Yeah.
and Ahote is staying outside with the other two. And so there's somebody sitting behind a desk, and then there's somebody who's much further in the back, who's almost like behind something kind of more obscured, like you assume, like the manager type.
Mhm.
The person sitting behind the desk is on their Nisi, and you can't tell what they're doing, but they are absorbed in their Nisi.
And I think I go up to the desk and ask for their attention. And I will wait patiently until they're ready to give it to me. Showing respect and seeing how that's returned. And then I'm going to go into the discussion of, I understand that there's been an elder murdered. I'm new to
Mhm.
this area. It concerns me. My friend Akoni here is also from Cahokia, but has more family ties here. So we just want to make sure that the place is safe, and um, you know, wanted to see if you have any answers about what's going on here. Are we at risk? Should we go home?
Okay, so why don't let's resolve this with a roll.
Yeah.
So it's a young man. There may be a nameplate or something that says his name is Thanens. And you've got coercion. If you don't have a skill, like so charm, you use the lower of the two related stats. In that case, it's both 2. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so. I was kind of angling towards coercion simply because my intention is not really the murder. It's more to find out how they would be interested in our crossing the border.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So just for what it's worth, yeah, coercion is to get them to change behaviors, divulge information, or take actions pretty much against their will.
Okay.
So one question is, could you want to get a very specific outcome. So you need to state what that outcome is. So is it to get information to try to read this person, or is it to get them to let you go across the border?
To divulge information about how they would feel about a group of us crossing the border.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's have you roll
Yeah.
5d12. Okay.
So I got 3 successes, but 1, so that's 2 successes.
Yeah, and let me just double check what so success number equal to the mystical defense value of the target. Let me check what his defense value is going to be. Yes, the success value is even lower, but it's not. His success value is a 6. So if you wanted, you could increase your second die by 1 mind point, or you could increase your 11 to a 12. The 11 to the 12 is the most efficient, because then you
Yeah,
get to
and
do critical.
that would be a critical. And I don't know that we've seen what that looks like, and I want to see what that looks like. So I will do so. I'll
Okay.
increase that to a 12 and see what that means.
Okay, so you're going to spend 1 mind. You're
Yeah.
not going to increase the number 5 to the 6 as well, because it's just
No,
overkill.
no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so by increasing this to a 12, you by definition are going to get 2 successes, possibly 3. So I mean, two for just that 11. So you're going to have a total of 4 successes, possibly 5. So just roll another d12 here.
Okay. I
You
got
just
another
rolled a
12.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. So let's keep track of this. Well, just roll that other 12 and then I'll keep track of it after, as long as the history doesn't leave this page.
Yeah. So roll another 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. So you have gotten a total of, I said his success number was going to be 6.
Yeah.
So you got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the 12, 6, 7 successes. Yeah. So he looks at you and sits up straight. And is your weapon anywhere visible or
No, it would be slung.
but
It
it
would
is
be
slung, but
like,
you have it though. Yeah.
yeah, I've got it with me. I don't think I've left my pack anywhere. I don't feel like I've found any place comfortable enough where I'd be leaving my pack. So I
Yeah.
think I still have my traveling pack with me, and my weapon would be with me as well.
Yeah. So he looks at your weapon, and he's like looking you up and down, trying to get some identifying features on you, and it just looks like he's not figured you out. Um, so just do me a favor, just ask me the questions straight out that you would be asking, so I can
Yeah.
just answer.
Straight out, it would be, um, do you have any problems with us or other people crossing the border to interact with the Azkans, and then coming back? Yeah.
Yeah. He says, well, if you're Ezcan, you know, he sort of stumbles over himself. If you're Ezcan, you can go back, you know, no problem. Because and you can it's fine if you're Ezcan. It's like you get the feeling he's deferential to the Ezcans, like uh and then he's like, but no, it'll be fine for you to go. I mean, you know, yeah, no worries. When do you want to go? I can tell the guy to just he just looks scared, and for some reason he's um scared but really cooperative.
Okay.
Almost like eager to please. And you know, with that role, you know, basically whether he says it or not, you know, you really have the feeling that he's on the take from the Escans. And
Okay.
like he's eager to please you. He's looking at you. He's like, oh, this is another person who I can you know, so another person who I could take advantage of, you know, maybe paying me for this, right? And he looks over at his boss, um, and his boss steps out and says, "Hello," and his boss is named Polka, and is a much more discerning looking person. She looks frustrated, and she's wearing a much more put together uniform. His is kind of like slack and unopened, and a little bit opened up, and hers is like, you know, buttoned up, the equivalent of buttoned up, and possibly even looks armored. And she says, Thonins, do you even know who this person is? Hello, I'm Polka. I
Uh,
overheard your conversation, and I was very interested in your interest with the Ezcans.
Um, I'm primarily interested in, well, I'm interested in all things. I traveled here from Cahokia, and we traveled here to find a specific herb for my friend. And but while I've been here, I found so many things that are fascinating. Um, like I met one of the local farmers, and I've eaten some of the food that I'm not that familiar with. And to be honest, I want to learn more about the Azcan Empire. Um, just to take stories back to Cahokia with me. Um, and I just wanted to see how the local constabulary would feel about me going across the border. Um, and you know, it seems like I've got a pretty good idea, but it sounds like you wouldn't have any issues. Is that right, Polka?
Um, so Poco looks like Poco would have issues.
Ah,
And so Hoka is going to say, I don't think you want to find out more about the Ezcans. Have you heard about what's happening all across the border, making their way? I have no support here. It says, points at Thanins. What am I supposed to do with this? She is trying to coerce you to leave. So she's going to say, you should turn around and go back to Cahokia and tell them not to come here. So she's going to try to coerce you. So this is a social encounter now. So I'm going to need you to roll. I'm assuming you want to contest this as opposed to just leave the room.
I guess this depends. Have I given enough time for Ahote to have tried to get the information he was looking for?
So let's smash cut over to that.
Perfect.
So Ahote and Aquoni and Dasi are outside. And Aquoni's like, okay, just give me a second. He's got this portable hacking rig. He's basically a little bit lit up in blue. He almost has, like when somebody has like a harmonica that they can play and they've got this little metal thing attached to their face. He has that with his extra computer stuff. It's like literally attached to his body. And he starts to hack in. He's like, I'm going to need, this is going to take me a little time. This is, police network, and we're right on the border of the Ezcans. Like, this is pretty tightly controlled. And as you're sitting there, I mean, tell me about where it is you guys are hiding out. Are you sitting in the back? Are you sitting in a Yutsu sled? Are you trying to find a building across the street you can sit in? Are your back's just like, are you just literally sitting on the ground outside the place?
I think a place nearby sounds the best. How common how commonplace are Yutsus?
Yutsu barges and Yutsu sleds are common for like transporting things. Barges are, if I've said barges, and barges are going to be like public transportation. Sleds are going to be like, a pickup truck. So it's not that common, but for a business that needs to move things from one place to another, for example, the farmer going from his farm to his restaurant, like that would make sense.
Right.
But people don't usually use them for personal transport. Instead they would just walk around.
Yeah, but so then a nearby building, I think would work the best.
Okay. So there is the market specializing in exotic tech called Papa Patak, which, let's just say, it's close enough. And they sell things there like, they're actually selling a couple of personalized looking mag slings. So the equivalent of guns, but they're behind the counter. And I think the reason they're being sold is because they're just very interesting looking. They're not being sold for weaponry reasons necessarily, but as far as they're functional. But you get the feeling that they're created by like an artist who put a lot of time into it and a lot of care into it. There's also GATs, which are the things everybody uses for 3D printing. And I'm conscious of the time. We're past 11, so we'll be wrapping this up in just a second, I think. And so this is a market that's got the tech and the goods, and there's a table where you're able to sit and look at some of the stuff. So the person working behind the counter is actually Shaheen. Let me see. What is his name? Chihan, and he's one of Aquoni and Dasi's friends. So he's totally happy to set you guys up and let you sit at the little table. He is hooked into what looks like a personal computer, as well as his Nisi. He actually has two personal computers, and you can tell he looks like he's a so because you chose to do this here, he's even helping you, and he's helping Aquoni hack in. Him and Aquoni are like a very formidable pair of hackers who are working together, because you've chosen to actually be in this place where they sell tech, and it's run by an accomplished hacker. And as you're sitting there at the table, in the mound, the door slams open, and you see the person from your vision, Piwanti, with his mask and with his golden eyes. And he doesn't know who you are, but he looks around and he says, and he looks at the mag slings behind the counter, and he says, don't even think about touching those. Those are mine. And he starts walking to behind the counter, and you see there's another guy standing outside, and he before you can do anything, Dazi runs to the mag slings to go grab one, and with that, we will leave it for next time.
Very cool.
Cool. So, before I forget, are you guys okay if I post this recording so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to let's do some stars and wishes. We can leave them on if you don't mind leaving the tape rolling while we do that. Let's start with Rod.
Are there any post-game things that we need to look into, like questions to ask or anything?
Oh, can you, like as part of the mechanics?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, because I'll forget
Yeah.
this by next week. So, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So Rod, any stars and wishes?
Yeah, stars for helping create this this very interesting setting, for us. Yeah, and it almost feels like we're touring through these, to this very would probably be more familiar to our characters, but for me as a player, feels very different.
Is that railroady? Is that like
Railroady?
a railroad feeling, like you're being forced down a track? Or is it, when you say touring, or is that an okay experience? Like sometimes people don't want to be guided down a track,
Maybe a little of both. Yeah, um, yeah, we have choices, but it does feel sometimes that we're the NPCs are pushing us a little bit. Hey, let's go
Okay.
here.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
So I mean, we can always argue with them. So that's always an option. But there's a little bit of that feeling. I'm sorry that
Fair
Rich
point.
left. My cat's trying to.
Oh
find-
no, Rich, it sounds like Rich will be back next week. Totally
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. I mean,
No worries
for
about it.
tonight, that we missed him for most of it. But I'm glad how everyone's leaning into their character. I'm happy Shaka's happy willing to protect Ahote while he's off in his dream state. I love the purring rabbits was awesome. I like how the animals and the plants are fitting into this adventure, um, with the supernatural element as well. Um, I like, I like the Shaka's gung ho-ness of trying to explore everything. So I like how that's becoming a defining character. It's just characteristic of his, and I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Okay. Any other wishes?
Um, not not in the immediate. If I think of something, I'll email her.
Okay. Perfect.
Mm.
What about you, Stephen?
Um, so I'm not sure I can separate them into wishes and stars. I'll talk about them all in a jumble. Rod mentioned Rich leaving, and it's unfortunate, but to a certain extent, I'm a big fan of the open door. So I'm happy to see someone like, oh, something came up, I need to do that, and I'm like, I've
Oh
been
yeah.
in those games where I feel obligated to stay and I shouldn't, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a big fan of that. I wish he could have seen more, but we'll see him next week. And there was something else you said, Rod, about railroady. Um, I felt I felt like this whole setup was very open world, and it was like you can go here, you can go to the farm, or you can go to the research facility, or you can go to the hotel, or you can go to the cops, and I was like, okay, so at first I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go, and it seemed like the NPCs had personality to say we should go here, and it was like, okay, maybe that's a good idea, maybe it's not. Um, so I guess those are just responses, and then I really enjoyed a lot of the scenes that we dealt with where we found the plant that we came here to look for, but immediately got wrapped up in, a murder that was going on, and then made friends with NPCs. And I liked the whole dream state thing that you did. That was fantastic. I and the way that, uh, Chris, that you described the whole place was, you know, very evocative because we have these hover sleds and we have wild animals and we have mounds, but we're hacking into the cops, and it all felt really it's a very unique setting, and I really like that. You really helped bring that out. So yeah.
Great. Any other wishes?
Not that I can think of. Yeah.
Okay.
I
I
think we got
thought
a good taste of what the mechanics are like by rolling dice and seeing how they work and all that kind of stuff. So that was good. I'll forget it by next week. We'll have to deal with the there was one point where Rod increased his die by an amount. Oh, in order to get 5 successes, and that's what his special power, his ability let him do. Okay. I was going to ask about like what's the significance of getting more successes and all that kind of stuff, but I think it was listed under his read the earth ability, right?
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
literally that was a unique one that had specific thresholds. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rod, were you going to say something else?
Yeah. I think I'd like um space to role play with the NPCs as well. Maybe just a little more. I think might be fun.
Perfect. Really helpful. Um, yeah. My own stars and wishes. Um, I think you guys are leaning hard into your characters. Really enjoying getting to play with you and hear you role play. I'm sorry that we went over. Granted, we did start late, but still, I'm usually pretty careful about making sure we cut it off just because I respect your time. So I appreciate you all staying here, and I'll just make sure next time to, get
No
us out of
problem.
here on the dot.
No problem.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
You
You
too.
too. Yep.
Thanks.
See you
Bye.
next Friday.
Bye bye.
See you next Friday.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.